right. I got my guy here. Today we're going to be discussing. How's it going, man? You doing all right?
Awesome.
All right. Yeah, today we're going to be discussing international travel under IML, and I asked you to come on to kind of give your insight, and I wanted to ask you a few questions for not only myself, but for the viewers as well. There's a lot of people in our particular situation who are still back in the US. They want to get out, kind of escape this regimes and all the pitchforks going on. So yeah, we just pretty much want to put out, information regarding your situation with IML and all of that stuff. You're currently living where?
I'm living about an hour outside of Athens, Greece.
Athens, Greece. Oh my goodness. I've always had it on my bucket list to make my way out there. Maybe I will here in a few months.
Oh, everyone says it's paradise, and I've been here for about 3 months now, and I have to say, like, that's the only word to describe it. It's paradise. Every day I feel like I'm waking up in a dream. It's everything so beautiful. The people are so welcoming. It's amazing. It's like heaven on earth over here.
Nice. And that's good to hear. I'm glad you're actually living as a free individual now. Post everything that's going on and all of that other stuff. If I may, what are your formal charges? Like after court and after everything has been said and done, what are your formal charges?
So the charges I went up with, I believe it's 7 felonies on paper, which even that I'm not totally sure about, because some documents say 6 and some say 7, but in reality it's 4 charges, and the judge told me it's at the prosecutor's discretion how they wanted to format the charges. But I had 1 charge of felony criminal threat, which is just like a verbal threat. That was the primary charge. That's how they referred to it, the primary charge controlling my case. All the other charges fell underneath the verbal threat thing. And that was, it was just my bad. I got in an argument and I reacted. I said things that I didn't mean to say.
Right.
But anyway, so the remaining 6 charges were 2 counts of, and it's been quite a few years now, so I'm not 100% sure. I think it's 2 counts of unlawful sex with a minor over the age of 15 or 14, however they come at it. 2 counts of penetration with a foreign object, in my case, that being my fingers, and 2 counts of oral copulation. And just to provide the least bit of context, all these charges surround a relationship I had with a teenage girl, which was a consensual year-long relationship. In reality, we were intimate hundreds of times, and the prosecutor, they didn't go into much detail, but for whatever reason, they said, we'll just give you 2 counts of each of the typical intimate acts that happen in consensual relationships. Even though there's many more than 2 instances of each, they just decided to do 2 charges of each.
Yeah.
So I have those 7 films. 6 of them are sex-related charges.
So you kind of got off easy then.
Yeah, I mean, I as far as the worst crimes known to man in America, yeah, being on the sex offender registry, I was very lucky, I guess you could say, or things turned out very good for me because all of the charges were by California Penal Code, non-serious, non-violent charges. So for all of these very scary sounding felonies, I served 20 months in prison. I think a little less than 20 months. So not even 2 years. And it was a huge learning experience for sure.
Absolutely. So a little more context about your situation. This was not forced. Your situation was totally consensual. The only difference was your age between you and the alleged victim, correct?
Correct. Yeah. And this was, I mean, I don't know much about public records, but yeah, that was all testified to at court. There was no suggestion that it was some consensual relationship or there was any force affect. Yeah, it was consensual. It was just a matter of her being under 18 years old.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like that's a lot of the individuals on the registry's case is that the situation was totally consensual and she was just too young to actually consent, whether it be a few years or a few months. I've seen guys in the same situation, end up in that very same situation for in, just a year or two, older or younger, what have you. It is pretty interesting. So you said you did 20 months and that was the formal sentence for you, or was there any sort of probation after the fact, or?
Um, so I guess my situation involves a 3-year probation sentence, or not probation, parole after prison, because I did go to prison and I had a 3-year parole. Just to be clear, my prison sentence would have been 2 years, but because I was very proactive and helpful in the prison, I got off in 20 months for good behavior. And similarly with parole, my parole officer said that in the past 4 years, she had only seen one other person on the registry be released from parole in less than 3 years. I was the second person. I got off in 2 years and 4 months. And again, just because I was very proactive and tried to help other people in the community while I was serving my debt. And I just want to mention before we totally move on, I definitely made mistakes. I see errors in what I did. I'm not saying I didn't do anything wrong, but something I find hilarious in California is that if anyone, regardless of their age, like a 50-year-old, can marry a 16-year-old in California, and in that case, there's no laws regulating what you do in the relationship. So it's just so strange that because I wasn't married to this girl, it was a crime. And if I had been, it wouldn't be. Not to say that I should have married her and that would have made things okay, but the laws are being overlooked somewhere, it seems like.
I totally get what you're saying. I actually have heard of situations like that. where states are allowing individuals to get married as young as 14. And I'm like, well, shit. Majority of these people wouldn't even be on the registry if they were married to this individual. But even though the law is the law, society still thinks that it's wrong. Okay, so if you follow the law, it's wrong. If you don't follow the law, it's wrong. And I'm not saying that it's right or wrong in any event. Right? But I definitely get what you're saying. That is very true. Maybe they should.
Right. The point being that like people take these regulations so seriously, and they're like, oh, you crossed this line, so you're a sex offender in terms of like that 18-year-old thing. And I agree with that. I mean, in reality, I wasn't an adult until I was 23, probably. I shouldn't have been, you know, people shouldn't be making certain decisions at that age. But people take that line so seriously with the laws, and it's even when it comes to the laws, it's not as cut and dry as people like to think it is. It's a really weird situation.
Absolutely. Well, how old were you compared to the victim?
I was 23, I think. 23 or 24. I have to get down to like the months that we met and started being intimate together. But yeah, I was right around 23 years old. And she was, the first time we met, she was 14 in reality. When we were first intimate, 15. But that kind of gets into the details of my case. Like she had a fake ID. I wasn't aware of her actual age. Her ID stated that she was 4 years older than she actually was.
Wow. I feel like that's pretty common. You know, a lot of these young girls are running around with these, with their older sister's ID, trying to sneak their way into these facilities where these grown men are just in there looking to have a good time. Okay, so you did your time, and what year did you finish?
I was released from prison on April 1st, 2019. April Fool's Day. When they called my name on the loudspeaker, I was like, no way, they're playing a trick on me right now. Because I didn't know I was going to get out that early.
Yeah.
But yeah, 2019, I got out, and then I got off parole towards the beginning of this year. I think just like 7 months ago, I got off parole.
Okay. So what made you decide to leave the U.S.?
Well, really, I decided to leave before I ever went to prison. I mean, when these charges came down, and I started talking to my family in Greece, and the authorities over here, I decided that whether or not I wound up being convicted, as soon as the legal trouble was over, I was going to leave the United States, because I had already been kind of familiar with, I think all people in America are at this point, that the legal system in the United States, it's a pretty scary thing. We have a huge portion of our population facing criminal charges or jail time or some kind of supervision. And I never realized it as an American, but the rest of the world thinks it's insane. Like no other country in the world imprisons or imprisons people the way the United States does, or makes every aspect of your life related to the laws of the country the way that the United States does. So I just, before I really faced the trial or anything, I was already thinking like, I need to get out of here. I don't want to be a part of this system. Going through trial is it's a nightmare for the individual and their whole family. Like the legal system kind of sucks everybody down with you in your sphere. Everybody who cares about you has a stake in it, and they exploit that. But I'm rambling. So yeah, I decided early on that I wanted to leave the country. Unfortunately for me, I wound up getting convicted and going to prison. But throughout the whole process, I was speaking with the Greek embassy, speaking with my family, and preparing to leave the United States as soon as it was safe for me to do so. So yeah, it was just once I got out, the whole time I was on parole was sort of a waiting game, just getting all my ducks in a row and getting ready to leave the United States. And that's what I did. I think like a month or 2 months after getting off parole, I came over here.
So you said you were already in contact with the Greek authorities about your arrival?
Yeah, so it's, I think, important to note for anybody who might be watching this and wanting to leave the United States. First and foremost, you have options. There are ways to get out safely and legally. In my case, I was exceptionally fortunate because my father was a Greek immigrant to the United States. So through him, because of Greek law, I'm technically born with dual citizenship. So for me leaving the United States, there's very little headache. There's no background checks, no hurdles at all. But still, just to confirm, I did speak with Greek authorities. I spoke with the Greek embassy, and they were very clear. Like in Greece and in most of the European Union, everything I did would not have even been considered a crime. There would have been no litigation, no issues. It would have just been a normal relationship with an age gap. So yeah, I didn't face any issues dealing with the Greek authorities coming over here.
Man, that's good stuff. You looking into getting any sort of documents while you're over there, to kind of make life easier, or are you just using your typical U.S. documents while staying there in Greece?
For now, I'm using my U.S. documents just because, well, I had to use them to get over here, and because with the crisis in Ukraine and the refugee crisis in general that Greece and the EU are facing, Athens is very backed up in terms of processing my Greek documents. On my end, everything's done. Like my documents are on the way, my Greek passport's on the way, but it's going to take probably another 6 months before it's all finished being processed. So yeah, I'm using my US documents for now, and as soon as I can, I will have my Greek passport and my Greek documents, and I intend to live as a Greek citizen from now on, just because the peace of mind, with all the stuff they're doing with US citizens and our passports, putting the notifiers on, sending emails to foreign countries and stuff. I don't want that following me around. So yeah, I'll live as a Greek.
I hear you. So for you, it was really just as simple as booking a plane ticket and leaving.
Yeah, really. I mean, I did file the 21-day, sort of filed the 21-day SORNA notice. But even on that note, my local police department in California, they told me I don't need to do that. They said we don't work with SORNA, we don't do the 21-day notice. I just wanted to cover my bases, and I insisted that I file one. So I did that. Maybe I didn't need to, but But yeah, aside from that, I just booked a plane ticket and came over.
Man, that's good stuff. So how has living abroad been beneficial for you in terms of the registry, IML, and all the notification stuff going on amongst the US?
It's indescribable how free I feel, how much less stress there is in my life. Part of that comes down to my US dollars going a lot farther here in Greece. So I'm very comfortable financially over here. But in terms of the IML and all of that, I feel so liberated in the sense that there's absolutely no legal aspects to my life. Aside from the lessons I learned, the whole legal nightmare is in the past. There's not an iota of that is playing a factor in my life right now. And beyond that, just the culture and the opinions of people over here, I can talk freely about what happened to me and my charges and all that if I choose to. And instead of being concerned that someone's gonna want to walk away from me or judge me because I was on the sex offender registry, instead, invariably, the response I get here is like, "Oh my God, that's crazy. They did all that to you because you were dating a teenager? This is insane. America is crazy." Like, people here have the polar opposite perspective on these things. And it almost makes me second guess how I feel about it, because my opinion is I made mistakes. Like, I shouldn't have, even though I thought she was older than she actually was, it's still like I feel like she was too naive. I noticed that she was sort of naive and younger than me, obviously, and I feel like I didn't play a good role in her life. So I have guilt about it, but people here are so against that. They're like, "Oh, you shouldn't feel guilty at all. The system was crazy. You didn't do anything wrong." And whether or not I feel guilty, it's just great to know that people will be supportive of me and not condemn me because of the mistakes I've made.
Yeah, you're able to get back to life and move forward. In the US, you wouldn't be able to do that.
Absolutely, yeah.
I believe I said in one of my videos, 5 things I've learned since being off the registry. This was regarding me living abroad at that time. I did say that same thing about the stress only being existent in the U.S. You know, once I left, I felt so much better. You know, I didn't have anything to worry about. I didn't have to constantly make bullshit scheduling meetings to go in and report this, that. You know, oh, I got a new email address. Oh, I got a new TikTok, or you know, I'm not even on TikTok, but let's just say I had a new Instagram or some dumbass shit like that. You know, I'm supposed to make an appointment, go in, and I'm supposed to tell you what my username is. It just got fucking ridiculous. You know? So I definitely understand that. You know, a lot of people don't understand that there are federal laws, there are state laws, and then there are city ordinances that are constantly changing, constantly going into place. The goalposts are constantly moving. You know, you think you're there, and then boom, they'll add this. You think you're here, and then boom, they'll add that, or they'll stop this. A lot of people don't understand. They say, registrants, they get off easy. Sex offenders get off easy. I'm like, no, man. You put yourself on the internet for 1 month, and you tell me how easy that is. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually the impetus for why I was so motivated to leave the United States, because like you said, people don't understand, even the people closest to me, my parents, my people who testified at my trial, people simply can't comprehend. If you're on the sex offender registry in the United States, you could be a saint from then on. No, you could be a legal expert. You could devote your life to living perfectly, and you will face legal trouble again, 100%. There's no way to follow all the constantly changing laws and regulations, and it's different depending on the state. Some states it's different depending on the area you live in, like Los Angeles, or a lot of cities have their own local ordinances for registered sex offenders. It's literally impossible to not violate the law again. You can't do it.
Absolutely.
And I met so many people on the inside, old men, nice old men, that they all have the same story, like, oh, 40 years ago, I made a mistake with a younger girl and so on and so forth. Now, 40 years later, they're going to die in prison because they forgot to change their address or because the laws in their town changed. It's like, I will not live the rest of my life knowing that I might die in prison just because I got Alzheimer's and I slipped up somewhere. It's no way to live. It's brutal.
Yeah, I fully agree. I fully agree because, like you, I myself am in the same boat dealing with this whole registry bullshit. And I just got tired and I said, you know what, man, I need to leave the US before I lost my mind and ended up hurting someone. So, best decision I could have possibly made. And I totally see where you're coming from. I do want to ask you, I believe we have 2 minutes in this meeting. We can do a part two, but right now I do have 2 minutes. So I do want to ask you if you had any interest in revisiting the US at any point.
Right now, absolutely not. I mean, I fantasize about maybe 30 years from now, maybe things will be different and maybe I'll go back to the US. But even in those circumstances, I would go back just to visit some of my family. Of course, I'm always going to miss some of my family and wish I could be closer to them in the States. But really, I just wish they could come over here and see me. There's nothing I miss about being in the United States. And I could write a book about that. There's just so many things to appreciate about living internationally and not being stuck in that bubble anymore. Even if I wasn't dealing with the criminal past, I'm so glad that I finally took my life international.
I hear you, man. I hear you. All right, man. Well, I definitely appreciate you for coming on, dude. We'll definitely get a part two in about more detail about how you're living out there in Greece, man. Give people some motivation to get up and get their passports, whether it's stamped or not, and get the fuck out of the US, man.
Oh yeah, sure thing. And I'm just realizing this is the first time I'm talking to you, so it's awesome to finally meet up with you. And yeah, I look forward to doing this again.
Absolutely, man. I really appreciate you, brother.
Thanks.
All right, I'll talk to
Have
you
a good
soon,
one.
man. You too.